we go back to the old saying, grass grows grass, and you can see the paddocks that were closed up, say, starting near the end of October and into November, and you can see that they were able to get that cover back onto them whilst grass was still growing last year, and they've come through into this year with good covers there. Ground that maybe wasn't closed up in time, or it was had the intention of being closed up and was regrazed, they've really been hampered. They'll have very little covers on them, and they will take a long time to get to a point where we'll be happy to graze them.
Hello, I'm Kieran Lynch and welcome to OviCast, the Teagasc Sheep podcast. Each episode, we bring you latest insights, advice and technical updates for the sheep industry. In this episode, grassland advisor Nikki Kennedy joins us to discuss key grassland management priorities for February. We look at the current challenging ground conditions, opening farm covers and the importance of soil sample and making use of your nutrient management plan. Nikki also shares some practical advice on planning spring fertiliser purchases, along with key tips for applying fertiliser and organic manures when conditions allow. I suppose if we just start off, Nikki, like conditions around the country, obviously far from desirable at the moment.
Yeah, conditions, I'd say everyone is fairly similar. It's wet, ground is saturated, probably worst in the east and southeast, which is a bit unusual to be saying at the start of February. But regardless of that, it's wet and saturated everywhere.
It has slightly flipped on its head. Normally it's the southeast. We were talking about getting going early in spring, but it's severely hampered at the moment. Look, I suppose the only upside, Nikki, is better now maybe than in a month's time when we're smack bang in the middle of lambing for most of the country. But it is challenging as it stands. It will take a number of weeks before it dries out fully.
Yeah, it is going to take some time, the levels of groundwater there. But as you say, for the majority of people lambing, we do have a bit of time. So hopefully weather is on our side going forward.
Look, if we talk about starting off, I suppose February gives us a snapshot of what's ahead for the year. What are opening covers looking like, Nikki, and maybe what we need to consider in that line?
Yeah, February is a great time to, especially on the sheep side, where, as we say, we often have that bit of time before we actually have to get out grazing. So it's a great time to look at our opening farm covers. Just looking at data coming in there from Pasture Base and from a few of the Teagasc farms, Athenry, and that we're looking at a opening average farm cover of about 650 kilos of dry matter per hectare. That's bringing with it, there was about 3.5 or 4 kilos of overwinter growth, which is fairly normal. I'd be pretty happy with that. But at the moment, it's still sort of sitting around that for this last week, which is a bit slower than usual, but it is predicted to be picking up there in the coming weeks.
Current conditions certainly won't be advantageous for growth, but I suppose, Nikki, it's probably another time we can reflect back on what we did last October or last November. You can actually very visibly see at the moment the impact of that closing plan.
Absolutely. Like we go back to the old saying, grass grows grass, and you can see the paddocks that were closed up, say, starting near the end of October and into November, and you can see that they were able to get that cover back onto them whilst grass was still growing last year, and they've come through into this year with good covers there. Ground that maybe wasn't closed up in time, or it was had the intention of being closed up and was regrazed, maybe with some of those better conditions that we had coming into Christmas. They've really been hampered. They'll have very, very little covers on them, and they will take a long time to get to a point where we'll be happy to graze them.
Probably maybe one slight difference this winter from a quality point of view seems to have less die off and grass, less senescence in it. We didn't get as much cold frost weather over the winter. Quality wise seems to be slightly ahead maybe of last year.
Yeah, I would say that we did get away lightly. We sort of haven't really got any big snow to talk of or the hard frosts. So we have got away that way. So no one's really gone backwards. Some years, we close up with a good cover and we open up with significantly less than we closed with, which is never good. But this year we have got away well. So I'd say on average, farms that followed a bit of a closing up pattern, we're looking in good shape cover wise.
Look, I suppose we've still an opportunity to maybe plan a little bit ahead for the year. Soil testing is something that we can still consider. There's no fertiliser going out from most farms, very little farm manure moved. It's still a window there that we can get soil testing done, and it's one of those tasks that's worth investing in at this stage of the season.
Yeah, I back that completely. Especially most farms will be a bit quieter now in the lead up to lambing, we've got a bit of time, get the soil testing done. It's some of the best money you can ever spend on the farm. We can make informed decisions throughout the year. We can see where we need to target with our lime, particularly our phosphorus through the year, our P allowances. Not only does it show us where we need it, but it actually, if we're not doing the tests, we get no allowance now with new regulations. So it is really critical to get it done.
Probably no harm either, Nikki, in reflecting back on a nutrient management plan if there is one in place and just checking in before we think about fertiliser purchases. What do we need and where do we need to target?
Yeah, exactly. And it just means that by having a plan, and it doesn't have to be overly complicated, we can just break down and see where are our low indexes and maybe where has got manure or slurry in the last couple of years. We can just make a bit more of a plan and use our resources better, one from an environmental point of view, but predominantly from a financial point of view, putting it where we're going to get the best response.
If we're talking about fertiliser, obviously at the moment all we can do is talk about. Take me through some of the key things we need to look at there. So I suppose the when, the where, and what to go with, Nikki.
Yeah, I mean, you look out the window and fertiliser is probably not high up on the priority, but that thing of making a plan, we know we're going to need it and it's going to need to go out at some point when the conditions come right. So making a plan and getting it in the yard so we can make the most of when conditions do come. So for making that plan, the soil test, that's a big part of it, and looking at your nutrient management plan from previous years and going into this year. But one thing we need to do, and it's a farm by farm basis, is assess what level of grass is on the farm and what level of demand is going to be on the farm come lambing or lambing and calving. We're going to go into a really high period of demand, but the stocking intensity varies across farms. Some farms won't have as much of a demand and others will have a huge demand. So there's really going to be a great need for getting out as soon as we can with that nitrogen, particularly to boost on grass growth for the spring.
So again, Nikki, a targeted application when conditions are difficult in spring, picking those drier fields first. That's what you're aiming at.
Yep, definitely. And those drier fields, one for travelling the land, but two, the drier fields you're probably going to be targeting as grazing them off and having that nitrogen on them. They're going to get a really good response to that, and their regrowth is going to be well boosted.
Obviously, Nikki, response is going to be lower in spring. And look, some of this will depend, as you indicated there, on the stock rate in the farm. But in terms of a rate and product to go out with at the moment.
Yeah, to keep things nice and simple, a half a bag an acre of protected urea, that's coming in around just under 20 units. That's going to be a great start for getting that grass really moving. It's our cheapest form of nitrogen as well, so that's always a benefit.
I suppose we can sometimes forget about that, Nikki. It mightn't be doing a hell of a lot for opening cover, but it's really boosting that regrowth in those paddocks when we get them grazed off in early March.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if we're going out with that half bag at the end of February, like it's not suddenly going to, have you with fields and fields of lush grass, but it is really going to improve that regrowth, which will come and serve itself sort of 6 weeks' time when you're coming back to graze it the next time.
So look, Nikki, obviously over the next couple of weeks, that's going to be very farm specific, very dependent. As you indicated, like one of the key things is to have it in the yard, ready to go when the conditions allow, and I suppose have all the equipment ready to go as well.
Yeah, so with the poorer weather we're currently having, it probably actually gives a good opportunity to do those rainy day jobs. One of them being making sure the fertiliser spreader is in good condition and fit to go do the job when we get the conditions. So by that, I mean, give it a good service, make sure it's all greased up, make sure either the wagtail or the vanes are all in good working order. We want the product that we're paying a lot of money for to be going out as we wish and to be doing its job.
Yeah, definitely no harm, Nikki. Look, we need it going out right. Very obvious when you're spreading urea, if a fertiliser spreader isn't putting it out appropriately, you'll see the stripes in the field. Look, I suppose there's pressure coming on farmers, particularly in mixed farms with cattle as well, where slurry's gone out and conditions allow. Where should they target that at?
Yeah, we'll be targeting that on our lower covers. they won't be grazed for a while, so give that time for the slurry to work away and be out of the grass by the time we come onto it. And as well as that, silage ground is a prime target for the slurry with its high P's and K's. Given we can travel it, that's all just going to be condition depending.
Nikki, look, thanks. I hope that hopefully the weather conditions improve over the next couple of weeks. Certainly they'll need to. And look, I think plenty to consider for farmers like that. Good having you on.
Cheers, Kieran. Yeah, hopefully the weather picks up, and happy lambing.
We'll leave it there for this week's episode. I have included a link in the show notes to the Grass 10 newsletter where you can get updates on our programme on a weekly basis. I'm Kieran Lynch. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us wherever you get your podcasts.